Well, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Jason Levine, and welcome to the Friday Masterclass. Great to be back after a little break. Hope everyone in the U.S. had a nice holiday weekend last weekend or whenever the holiday was. It always feels like I've been gone a very long time whenever we take a Friday break. So it's great to be back here. And of course, today we are continuing on with our Masterclass series, kind of diving into fundamentals across different pieces in the Premiere Pro universe. And today we're going to focus on the Essential Graphics panel, also known as the EGP, not to be confused with the Essential Sound panel, which we covered just a few weeks ago, which I like to call the ESP, although we're not really supposed to say that. In any case, the Essential Graphics panel is basically a way that we introduced a couple of years ago for anyone, regardless of your motion graphics skills, to very quickly create, design, and animate titles, credit rolls, lower thirds, right on canvas with some very easy tools. This kind of reimagined the previous legacy titler that we had in Premiere Pro, which we're going to talk about towards the end today, because some of you may have noticed recently, if you've created titles or maybe you've opened up projects that had titles created in the previous legacy titler, this will be going away. And but there's good news. You can convert those legacy titles to the Essential Graphics panel format, or the source graphic format. But there are some things to be aware of. Not everything carries over exactly because it's just designed completely differently. There's things that the Essential Graphics panel does that legacy titler couldn't do. In any case, we're going to cover all of these things. I'm going to show you an online doc. You're going to want to take notes and probably do some screenshots here. Either way, Essential Graphics is easy, you can do a lot, and you also have access to the many, many thousands, tens of thousands of motion graphics templates already pre-created via Adobe Stock, many of which, and I stress many, are free. And among those free ones, there are some really good ones. You know, I know a lot of times you're like, oh, free graphics, these stink. You know, they're not all brilliant. Some look like I may have designed them, and you know I'm no designer. But there are some really amazing free ones, including free stuff, free motion graphics templates from people like Andrew Kramer. And, you know, if you're in the biz, if you're in the industry and you know After Effects, then you know. Andrew Kramer's designed motion graphics for everything from, you know, major tutorials to Star Wars movies. He is a master. He's an amazing man. Met him many times at NAB. He's a super great guy. We have some of his stuff for free. So I'm going to show you that, you know, and the nice thing is if you download some of the free ones after the class today, this will also help you sort of break down and understand how these things are built. This is actually one of my favorite things to do with the free templates is, oh, okay, I forget how he did a credit roll. You can grab a free credit roll, look at how it's done, see how it's animated, etc., the layout, modify it, of course, make it your own, but then now you know how to create your own. So there's a lot of really great things that you can do with these just to better your understanding, and you never have to kind of get out of that editing flow. And that's kind of a significant difference between the legacy titler, which is, or was, you know, sort of a modal dialogue. You kind of had to leave the Premiere Pro UI. You couldn't play and simultaneously create and do stuff. You were kind of stuck in this title window. That's what's primarily different when you're working with the Essential Graphics panel. So as always, we're coming to you live across multiple networks: YouTube, Behance, Adobe Live, Twitter, and once again, LinkedIn. So I see we've got Germani Stevenson. Great to see you. Tori Adams, Felicia Peppers, Tom Okerlund, LinkedIn user from San Antonio. Nice to see you. Peter Tahoe, Asa Kamara, Peter Breen, what's happening? Anthony Graziano. On from Oslo, Karen Irvine. I see some people having some things static there on LinkedIn. Hopefully that came back in. Harsh Pagi from India, nice to see you. Jason Delgado. Shlomi Arditi, great to see you. Kenny J, we enjoy every day. Cameron Coleman, the Padawan Collector. And of course, we've got Reverb Mike, Z by HP, Steve Hesskosaboom, Cody Bear, Eugene, Alessandra Lopez, Theo, great to see you all. Okay, man, I really need to trim this down. I was on a beach in an undisclosed location, and I swear my beard grew like 3 times as fast while I was gone. I don't know if that's actually possible, but it felt that way all the same. Christy Grace, I love Adobe Lightroom especially. Me too. Luis Ventura, hello. All right. And another LinkedIn user from New Jersey. And Luis is from Lisbon. Ah, yes, as always, a wonderfully international audience. Great to see you all. Thanks for tuning in. Okay. So today, there are multiple parts to Essential Graphics. We're really, once again, if you followed the last couple of lessons where we went to like audio fundamentals, what is amplitude? I'm not going to define what a graphic is, but we are going to go to the very basics of creating graphics in Premiere Pro. Now, again, just real quickly, the legacy titler. Now, we're going to come back to converting and all that stuff. I don't want to start there because some people are like, I never use that. I don't care. So, but just to point out, previously, when you wanted to make titles, you had to go up to the File menu. So File, New, and Legacy Title. And when you did that, it would ask you for sort of all the attributes of said title, which, again, in sort of 2022, you're going, why doesn't it just know I'm in a sequence? I know what I want it to be. But you would do that. Okay, so here's the message that we're going to retire this in late 2022. All right, I'm not going to leave that on screen. You can read that at your own pace. And this is what it looked like. Now, on the surface, it's a very nice sort of, UI. We've cleaned it up a little over the years. There's a lot of tools. There's a lot of twirl downs over here. Actually, we've minimized some of the twirl downs, it appears. I haven't been in this dialog, and I don't even know how many thousands of years. Okay, so once you click, and now you're seeing everything. So again, you have all of your properties here. Everything, leading, kerning, tracking, baseline, all these things, all your transforms, your fills, strokes, shadows, background, and then some legacy title styles, which is, the perfect name for those. If you know, you know. And this was fine. And it is fine. And some people love this. And it is nice. A little busy on the tools for my eyes. A lot of stuff going on in there. But again, you were sort of designing everything in here. You couldn't click over to the timeline. Well, I guess you can sort of click over to the timeline now, but you're not really playing back and doing things. It's just a little heavy. Maybe we change that now. I don't know. If it looks a little old school, it's because it is. So a couple of years ago, we introduced the Essential Graphics panel. And basically, this just lets you do what you'd expect to do, which is if I want to start making titles, I just click my text tool and start typing right on the canvas, in the program monitor, okay? No extra window, no extra panel, none of that stuff, okay? If you don't have the Essential Graphics panel open, you can, of course, access it via the window menu. And I believe there's also an Essential Graphics workspace, which will pull that up as well. So again, I've got a sort of customized workspace here. You can, I see people are laughing at Legacy. You can do it however you like. Okay. Now, maybe you never do titles in Premiere. Maybe you just edit video. Maybe you do all your stuff in Photoshop. I actually tend to do still some things in Photoshop. Maybe you'll use some of those presets and such. Now, again, we're going to come back to some of these, but I just want to show you that when you open up Essential Graphics by default, you have two tabs. You have Browse and Edit. Now, Edit, of course, is when you're actually creating your own. Browse allows you to browse your own templates. And here, let me just take off the search field here, as well as browse templates from within Adobe stock. Okay, now, again, we're going to come back to this because I want to go to the fundamentals of just building them. But you already have in your local templates folder, now you're not going to have all the ones I have because I've saved many there over the years, but there are already a whole bunch of things that we sort of pre-save for you so that you can get started. And this is everything from some basic lower thirds. You can see some of them here. Okay. There may be some social things. Now, I mean, a lot of this has probably been updated. There's some classic credits. Okay. There's all kinds of pre-created things in here. These have been in here for a long time. These are some cool, very sort of ESPN. You can see this one says sports, scoreboard, sports, lower third. There's all sort of pre-created graphics that you can drag in and begin working with. And then, of course, motion graphics are also part of Creative Cloud libraries. So, if you have any that you've saved to your own library, you can see many of mine here. You know, for instance, I created motion graphics from some of my 3D intros and some various things. These are ones I created. Here's my particle one that I use for my intro here. You can save all of those things to your library, so you always have access to them wherever you are. So the Essential Graphics panel is really, it's not just for building them, it's also a hub for storing them, and it's a hub for accessing the many thousands available to you via Adobe Stock. Okay, but at the baseline level, if we want to just start putting a title on something, it's as simple as navigating to the Tools panel. And again, depending upon where you have your Tools panel, how it's docked. And at the bottom here is the Type tool, the familiar Type tool. And if you just long press on that, you'll see that you have the options for, you know, standard, horizontal type, or vertical type. So I'm going to choose the Type tool here. I'm just going to click somewhere in the middle. All right, and I'm going to type beach scene. All right, and now up in the Essential Graphics panel, okay, you will see that not totally unlike what we saw in the titler, all right, we now have this text layer. Now that's a very important language. It is a text layer because you can have multiple layers of text, graphics, i.e. shapes, bounding boxes, images, and even video inside of an essential graphic. And an essential graphic, much like the old titler, as you're working on it, it's sort of a nebulous thing. It lives in the timeline, and you can see it down here. Okay? And of course, we can make it longer, shorter, etc. Skipping ahead in a moment, when you want to actually make that part of your project, you can do what's called upgrade that to a source graphic, and then it becomes, you know, an actual physical thing that you can move around, share, use, drag and drop into your timeline elsewhere. It just makes it easier, and it feels very much like what you would have done with the legacy titler. Okay, beach scene. Okay, so let's just kind of go through some of this. Now I might skip around just a little bit and come back to certain things. Now, right off the bat here, I hate expressions. One of the first things I want to say is, again, if we want to modify this text, first of all, there's like a drop shadow on there. Let's just double click. Let me make sure I'm selected here. All right, my text. And you'll see that we have, of course, our align and transform controls. And then we have all of our Adobe fonts, our justification. I want to do this center aligned, okay? And then I can also do my align and transform, vertical center, horizontal center, all right? Very simply. Now I'm going to come back to the appearance panel here. Let's just turn off that drop shadow for a moment. Come over to my text. Now I can twirl this down. Again, these are all of your Adobe fonts. At last count, I don't remember if it's 18,000 plus 19,000. Thousands and thousands of fonts you have access to inside of Adobe Fonts. And, you know, as you select them, you'll see it will change on screen. I can, of course, make this much larger. Now, I'm not usually a fan of that kind of style, but, you know, for beach scene, I don't actually hate it. If you've watched this, you know I have terrible fonting. What's that one called? Flood standard. Someone on some chat somewhere is going, terrible. I don't hate that. Sue me. I think that actually looks pretty good. Quick thoughts on that, friends watching. Do you hate that? I like to sort of scroll through fonts. This is going to be very verbose today. I like to scroll through fonts just to find things. I have three that I rely on all the time. Futura PT, Adobe Clean, which is not readily accessible to all, and another one called it's Cooper something. Not Cooper Black. It's something else. It's a very kind of thick, bold. It almost looks like a very bold Futura. Because those tend to be sort of, Futura is like sort of always in style in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Now, I never know thin, thick, tall. I never know font stuff. I get terrible anxiety. All right, that font works for beach, but what do I, thank you, we enjoy every day. There you go. Thomas Benner, it's ugly and I love it. Oh, gee. Oh, man. Cody likes it. All right. All right. Eugene, try Callista. All right, let's see Callista. Let's see that one. Do I have that one? It's not coming up. It ought to be. Maybe it's not. Oh, I don't have it. Sorry, Eugene, that's why I didn't find it when I searched. Now, one other thing in here about Adobe fonts. You'll notice that we have the show favorites. So when you find a font that you like, I've already forgotten what this one was called. Whoops. I may never find it again. You can favorite it. So you can see, as I mentioned, I have two favorites, Adobe Clean and Futura PT. These were sanctioned. Oh, Flood Standard. These were sanctioned by my colleagues Rufus Deutschler and Michael Shez many years ago and Paul Tranny when I used to do live streams. I said, are these okay to use? And they would say yes. Okay. All right. So that's your font stuff. And again, all of the same controls you have here in text. Okay. And then of course you have your appearance panel, right? So again, we can adjust the fill color, right? So if we wanted to do something, a little more kind of in the flavor of this, go with like an orange. I mean, that's going to be a little hard to see unless we put on some kind of a drop shadow. No, that's not good. Okay. But you know how fill works. We don't have to go into all of that. This feels and functions and works very nicely. All right. Now we're going to come back to stroke. I do want to just showcase quickly the background because this is a cool addition. Now, this is something that we added sort of Essential Graphics V2. Sometimes if you have text, particularly if you're doing like old school captions, but this can be for really anything, maybe you just want a box around it. So what this does without drawing a shape, you can still do it manually, and we don't really have to do that anymore. Essentially though, I can grow the box size, all right, if I want a box around it. I can round the corners of said box. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's great design. Even I can tell that isn't. You have the opacity of the box. Okay. I mean, what do I know? And then, of course, you have the color. So maybe we want the box color to be something. I don't know. Again, massive anxiety with this. Okay. But very quickly, we have text and a box. And most importantly, with this box as it is, it grows as you type. So it automatically rescales, resizes the box if you add that background option there. Okay? So to me, that's pretty cool. Now, the alternate way to do that, if we turn that off real briefly, would be to come back up to our layers panel up here. And when I click on new layer, you'll see that I can again create a new text layer, another text layer, a vertical text layer, couple of shapes, rectangle, ellipse, polygon, or from file. And this allows me to import image files, JPEGs, TIFF files, layered PSD files. We're going to come back to that in a little bit when we talk about credit rolls, and videos as well. All right. So let's just start with something like a shape. All right. Now, what should I do? I'll do a polygon. All right. Perfect. Oh, and it's coming up with like the default that I was messing with before. Okay, that's fine. And it also stole my thunder a little bit because there's already things on. Why did it pull up the shape I already made? That's weird. Huh, all right. Kind of stole my thunder here because you'll notice that this is no ordinary triangle, but it has multiple strokes. So the triangle itself, and of course you can resize and scale and rotate and do all sorts of things to this. But we've had and added additional multiple stroke capabilities here. So you can see I've added a couple of strokes. Give myself a stroke. These don't look very good. I can add another one here. I can let's change the color. Maybe we do again something. I kind of need like a blue, right? Something in the. All of this is kind of muted. I don't know. I struggle with color. So much anxiety. All right, let's just go light. I don't know. It's going to look terrible. That's fine. All right, make another stroke here. Well, I don't know. A little slightly creative. You design your thing. I'll design mine. All right. And again, now, when you're in stroke, I want to point this out. There's a couple of really cool options in here. So you have linear gradient and radial gradient. So you can do some really cool things with those strokes if you're a good designer. If you're a terrible designer, you can do some not great things, which is what I usually do. All right? But this was a new addition not so long ago, and I love this. I love that we have these gradients in there. You can just really, really just get kind of different cool results. Mess around with the opacity stops there. That's like way too white. All right. Anyway, you get the idea. I'm beating a dead horse with my design capabilities here. I think that looks awesome. Anyway, you have those options, and look, we could even do it here on the fill. And that's just shameful. I'm trying to stay with the sort of beach colors. Okay. It's fantastic, all right? And you get the idea. We continue to add these things, all right? So we can add any number of things. Now, we can also add video, because you may notice at the bottom of all of this, there's something here called mask with text, okay? And this is one of those things that is very sort of common and modern, where you have text and you have video playing underneath the text, right? Or it fills the space of the text. Or sometimes you have text over top of video and like the text grows as the video bleeds through it. There's some pretty cool things you can do with this. So we're gonna hit that in a second. Before we get there, let's go back up to the top though to talk about this thing here, responsive design positioning. All right, so this is one of the more unique features of the Essential Graphics panel, and this is something which we also added on the After Effects side in Essential Graphics. And the main benefits of this are that if you are building, and in particular, reusable graphics, right? So let's say I was going to take this whole thing, and this whole thing was going to be, I mean, it's sort of centered, whatever, but maybe it was just, I always wanted this to be 60% down of my, whatever my vertical height is, or maybe I wanted this graphic to always be sort of in a lower third position, whatever it is. With the responsive design positioning feature, I can ensure and basically pin specific elements of the design to those positions in the frame. So when I create that source graphic, when I create a reusable graphic, or I save this as a motion graphics template, which again, I could always edit the text, I could edit the colors, but maybe I want to put this on a social video. Maybe I want to put this on a vertical video. Maybe I want to put this in a square video, if anybody's still doing that. I can say, well, I always want this text to be in a particular relative position. So let's say I always wanted the text to be down here in the bottom left corner. So I can pin that, the text, to the video frame down here, okay? So when I save this as a motion graphics template, all right, and we'll come back to this towards the end there, it will always appear in that bottom left quadrant, like a lower third, okay? What that also means is that if I go to a completely different aspect ratio video, like a vertical one, and I drag in this graphic that I made, it's not going to be in the center. It will always and automatically be in that lower third quadrant. Now, obviously, you may have to sort of adjust the vertical position of it relative to the vertical video because it is a little different, but it'll appear essentially in that same location, right? And with something like this graphic, now this is what we used to do when we would make these bounding boxes that would automatically grow with text. You would add, a rectangular shape. I'll wind up erasing this. Oh gosh. Yeah, I guess it does hold all of your stroke values there. Let's turn this over here. So what we used to do was I would take something like this. All right, I would extend this out. I would drag this underneath. Doesn't that look great? And then what I would do is I would say, okay, I want to pin this shape, not to the video frame, but I would want to pin this shape to that text, okay? so that it would always grow as the text grew, okay? And then because of that, the shape and the text would always be in that lower third area. That's how we would have done that before that background option that I showed you before. You don't have to do that anymore, all right? Let's just get rid of all of that. Okay. But I think you get the idea. So you have a lot of flexibility here. I'm trying to undo all of this to get back to where we were. There we are. With how you sort of bring these elements in. And then if you're creating things to be used later as templates, you have this responsive design positioning. Michelle Caldwell, font anxiety is a real thing. I know. The Beach Boys starts playing in the background. Can I use ping with alpha, Leonardo? Yes, you can. That's great. And I'm going to show you later how I have a Photoshop file that has text, which is effectively on alpha, but there are other background layers and how you can choose. You don't, if you just create a regular PSD, you don't even have to sort of export ping with alpha. You can, but this gives you a little more flexibility. So we'll get to that. All right. As long as it's not papyrus. Yes, no, I know that much. This is sort of papyrusy, I guess, but I don't know. I have a better finished version of this. All right, so let's talked about layers. Let's add something else in here from file. And specifically, I'm going to grab the very video that this is playing over top of, okay? Now, the reason for this, actually, you know what? Hold on, let me redo one thing. I'm going to start this. I want this to be the full duration of this. Let me redo that again. I'm going to grab the video itself. So this is just to kind of illustrate some of those things I was talking about before. So I'm going to place the video on the bottom. All right. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a layer stack, so it works just as layers do in Photoshop. And, oh, and by the way, I should point out that, you know, as we're doing all of this, of course, if we go over to effects controls, what you're going to see is you have your shape layer, the text layer, and now the clip layer. And if we twirl each of those down, you know, you have all of the controls that you have in Essential Graphics. So let's twirl up the source text. But you also have all of the various animation properties. So let's say, you know, I want the beach scene text. I'm going to adjust opacity. So I just clicked opacity at 100%. At about 1 second in, I'm going to wind back, do that. All right, and now that flies up, right, and it comes on screen. You know, super, super fancy, okay? Same thing with my little shape here. Let's have this. Actually, I don't want that at 100% opacity. I want that at like 35. But same thing, come back to the beginning here, set that to 0. All right, and you can see that the mountains are bleeding through that there. Now I have the text itself at 100%, okay? But now that I have this video here, if I choose to mask with text, all right, and here I'm going to show you kind of this other one with this looks better with this text here. This is kind of that effect that you see. You see this a lot sort of in movies now, where you're actually letting the video bleed through the text here nicely, okay? And if we invert, similar things there, okay? And I just have kind of a fade out there to get rid of it. All right. That's Futura, I believe, by the way. I couldn't stand looking at that other text anymore. All right. So lots of things you can do with that mask with text feature. And again, all of the animation here is controlled inside of your effects controls. All right. So nothing different. It functions the way it did before. The main difference being that now you just have everything kind of living in this panel here, all right? And I did one other adjustment to this final one where I made a slight anchor point adjustment on the text. before it started moving. And by the way, that's just a scale keyframe. So you can see I set a scale keyframe, end scale keyframe, and that's it. Okay? Really easy. Okay. And I'm going to turn off that background, by the way. If I turn off the background entirely, because I have the video playing underneath, this is like the, what was that? That movie, 1917 or whatever. And this is where, you know, for something like this, I almost want a much, this is light here. Let's change this to heavy. Yeah, so just more of that, and I'm actually going to turn that shape off because it doesn't really work anymore. Right? Very cinematic. It helps to have text that kind of works as it flies. And this is where, again, you may adjust position and screen, you know, as well as, is it kerning is the, you almost want this to be too. That space is kind of killing it because there's too much dead space in there. By the way, you can also, because this is being controlled, that video, we can also move that video around. Now, that video is 1920 1080. This is a 1920 1080 project. So maybe we want to like scale up the video. So you can see as I'm scaling the video behind it, so that there's just like more interesting things happening there. I can move the video around, okay? It just depends what you want to do, but you get the idea here. And if I change that, I'm going to get rid of that space. Okay. Play this back. Yeah, so now as it kind of flies off screen, you're kind of in it. And then you could see how I would fade that out and then fade up the actual video underneath it, something like that, okay? So I love doing this. Again, this is like not new, but this is just one of those, you see this a lot now in title sequences and production. It's just a really easy way to mask with text, okay? That looks pretty cool. Great shot. I didn't film that, unfortunately. That's Adobe stock footage. Stranger Things intro uses similar. Yes, correct. Yeah. So that, again, is the mask with text feature. Now, the key and the thing that is sometimes a little confusing for people is the video that it's masking is in the essential graphic. So it's not doing it off of the video layer underneath. There's different ways to do that, but not here. If you want to do this with this feature, this is how you do it. All right. So it's maybe not quite as intuitive, but once you know how to do it, then it's super easy. And again, then you can use crossfades and things to just pick up where that video left off. You can see I have the original underneath. So what I would probably do, you know, is I could trim this accordingly and do a fade up or something. Let's see if this works. Fade this up. Oh, now they're fading off of each other. Oh, wait, let's see. Does that work? Yeah, there you go. Okay. I know what I'm talking about. It's that week back. I'm telling you, the week away. My mind just, I lose it a little. Okay, so, you know, let's play it. Beach scenes. Very nice. Oceans coming through the S. Very flowy. Again, that character doesn't work so well there, but you get the idea. Okay? We like it? That right there, that's beautiful. I love it. I just love how the people are also sitting kind of, you know, precociously in the background or surfing, whatever. Okay. All right. 90210. Very good. Okay. So we've got a couple minutes before I need to get to Legacy Titler. I want to talk about creating credit rolls or rolling credits. Okay. This has also been kind of redone and, you know, again, maybe you don't use a credit roll. Maybe you'll go to Essential Graphics. And if we just type in credits, these are already created in here. Now, these aren't roles necessarily. And by the way, here, if I like, I don't remember, do we just drag this down? Yeah, I can just drag this into the timeline. Oh, and that font is very, there you go. Okay, it just took a second. You can see these kind of reveal themselves. It's 150%. All right. And you can see all the text layers here, so you can modify all of these, right? Very easily. Jason Levine presents my movie. I'm just double clicking on the text here. Notice before, I don't know why the double click didn't work. Sometimes, I don't know. This is great. It's already sized. It's already doing everything. And by the way, this is all, it's instantaneous. You make the change. You see it on screen. Okay. But specifically, if you're trying to do something like a role, and I think we have credit roles in there, but it's easy. And I'm going to show you two methods. So first is, all you need to do is, of course, type your text on screen, and then there's an automatic function to make those credits roll over top, and you've got a couple of cool options there. All right. So let's just do that. So I'm going to come in here. Let's center justify. I'll type director, Jason L, editor, Jason L again, producer, Leslie Nope. That's an inside joke for anybody who watched Parks and Rec. She was everything. Sound design, Wes McGovern, just make that name up. And gaffer, Jim Gaff again, because I'm in a silly mood. And T and sympathy, Mal Evans. That's a Beatle joke. Okay. So I've typed text. It's even off screen. I can see it if I shrink things down. Here's what you do now. So when you simply click away and then click on the graphic, okay? Let's just go back to my project panel here for a second. You'll notice before I'm not selecting the layer here. I'm just in the edit field on the graphic. So we have this responsive design time. Now this is another thing. If you have animation, specifically something like a lower third, where maybe text animates on over a specific amount of time, and then it lingers, and then it animates off over a specific amount of time, you can set the responsive design time to always preserve a specific animation. All right. So, because remember, these graphics, you can drag them out for however long you like. So that's the thing. I can make this credit roll last the entire duration of my clip, or I can have it go very, very quickly just based on how long the graphic appears down here. Okay. So if you always want an animation to have that 1 second when it flies on screen and then 1 second when it flies off, all the stuff in the middle will be stretched or compressed regardless, as long as you have an intro duration and an outro duration set. That is responsive design time. For a credit roll, all right, all you have to do is enable roll. And then you'll see here that it says we can start off screen, end off screen, pre-roll, post-roll, ease in, ease out. So if I wind back here to the beginning of it, you'll see at the beginning of the graphic, it's off screen. I hit the space bar to play, and it just starts rolling up. Okay? And as it rolls away, off screen. Now, what if I want that to go faster? As I said, the duration is entirely based on the size of the graphic and the timeline. All right? This feels like the old like BBC credits. I was just watching the old Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, not the movie, the series. And obviously they were like butting up against the time constraint of the episode. So all the credits are always, they're even faster than this, you know? You see that a lot in BBC shows. I actually love that. Old Grey Whistle Test was another one. You know, whispering Bob. That'd be like, you know, Alice Cooper in the background or something, or I'm trying to think, who else was I recently I was watching? I was binging some of those. Anyway, that's real time, by the way, because you can see the waves are moving slowly. Super easy way to create a credit roll, all right? But that's not the only way. So someone was asking before, can I bring in a ping with transparency? Can I work in Photoshop? And the answer to that is yes, you can. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this, bounce over to Photoshop, where, again, I'm just in a Beetle mood today. I have this graphic where it's just one layer of text typed on screen. Now, I could, of course, have separate text layers. I just did it all in one. Carriage returned the whole thing. You'll see why I just did it so simply. And I just have a background layer. Now, again, if I wanted to create a ping, right, I would turn that off. File, export, quick export is ping, and then I've got a ping with transparency. That's fine. But Photoshop files in Premiere are fully supported in how it leverages and then allows you to use and animate said layers. So you can have any number of things in here, including, by the way, layer styles, you know, drop other effects and things. And when you save this, which I've already done, so if you look up here, you can see this is called 4 credits PSD. Let's go back to Premiere. I'm on this clip. All right. I'm going to go into my Essential Graphics here. Now, I just clicked the text tool so I could get into the edit field. All right. I'm not going to type any text, but instead I'm just going to say new layer from file. And there it is right there, 4 credits, PSD. Click import. And when I do that, it says, all right, well, what do you want to do? Now, do you want to merge all those layers together? Well, no, because I don't want that green background in there. Merged layers will allow you to select what layers you want, and then it'll appear as a single layer in Premiere. Or you can just choose individual layers and have them appear as individual blocks, or you could bring it in as its own sequence. So we're going to just do individual layers. Actually, we can do merged layers because I'm only going to enable the one, and I can disable the background. This is another reason why naming your layers is so essential, although, of course, in a Photoshop file standard, the bottom layer is typically going to be your background, or if you double-clicked it, layer 0, right? So I click OK, like this. All right. There it is. All right. Now, again, I can get rid of this one that we don't need. And now I can simply say roll. And there's my Photoshop file rolling. Okay? And you say, oh, well, but the text size is too big. I want to change the text size. You can go into your effects controls and change the scale, change the size. Okay? Now, again, you'll see that it comes in as a clip. This isn't, in this case, editable text. Okay? But you still have all of the same functions here, and it's going to preserve the fidelity of that. Okay? I think I scaled this. I think I built this in a 4K timeline. Once again, if I wanted this to go much more slowly, maybe I wanted to ease out, I can add some easing on here. Maybe a little ease in as well, about a second. A little bit of pre-roll. All right. Real simple. Credit roll. Okay. All right. So last things here. Okay. So with regard to, again, having these graphic elements, and you can see now because I brought that one in, it's showing up as the Insider Beatles. I want to turn this beach scene, maybe I want this to be a motion graphics template. So I can export it as a motion graphics template, which again will allow me to save it into my libraries. But I can also upgrade this to a source graphic, okay? And when I do that now, you'll see that it appears as a graphic here, right? And we'll call this beach mask text, okay? So I could use this same thing elsewhere in my timeline because now this becomes a reusable, draggable element, okay? So here it is on this one, right? Same thing. Now, similarly, if I wanted to take this and export this as a motion graphics template, I can call it Beach MWT for mask with text, and then I can tell it where do I want it to go. Now, this is essential because this is, again, the power of libraries. I was just talking with a colleague about this. If you're not using CC libraries, you're actually missing out on some really awesome functionality. Specifically, if you're going to be reusing templates, reusing font styles, reusing LUTs, reusing Adobe stock video, because wherever you log in, all of that will follow along, okay? So in this case, if I saved it to that local templates folder, it's only going to live on my machine here. That's not really ideal. So instead, I wanted to go to a library. So here's my most commonly used CC library. I can include a video thumbnail. Now, I don't know what that thumbnail is going to be. Hopefully it picks it from somewhere in the middle. I thought we used to let you change that. Then you have some compatibility things. It'll warn you if the fonts that you used aren't available. I always use Adobe fonts, so it'll work wherever I am. And if it's not available, it'll say, hey, you need to download this font to make this template work. Real simple, right? If you're a CC user, you just download it. It's very easy. And then warn me if it's using any effects not included with Premiere. You can keyword it for easier searchability. All right, click OK. It exports it to a motion graphics template. All right. And then if we go into Essential Graphics here, into my library, let's get out of credits here. There it is. Oh, nice. It took the frame that I was on. There it is right there. Beach MWT. And now, once again, this becomes an element that I could drag right in, okay, and start using. Okay? Very simple, very easy. All right, we've got 9 minutes to talk about the legacy titler. Now, I actually went back and found an old edit that I had done where I had created a bunch of titles using that legacy title. This is from 10 years ago. Now, these are not the fonts I chose. Whatever font I had originally chosen, I don't have anymore. It wasn't. This is like pre-Adobe fonts. So whatever this was trying to do, that isn't it. But the point is, you can see that to do these 2 layers of text and this little sort of animated box right here, which is basically just opacity, it took 3 elements to do that, okay? And if I twirl these down here, here are all of those titles. So if I wanted to convert this to a new motion graphics source graphic, I could select one or select all, come up to here and upgrade legacy title or upgrade all legacy titles, okay? And it will then convert that to this new modern standard, because coming soon in a new update to Premiere, these old titles aren't going to work anymore. So if you want to kind of keep some compatibility, I mean, chances are, I don't know how complex you made them. Maybe they were super complex. You're going to want to convert those over. But in lieu of doing that, let me bounce back over to my screen now. I wanted to just kind of go over some of the things that are and are not supported, okay? All right. We enjoy every day. Is video speed accessible? If you're talking about for the roll, again, the speed is entirely determined by the duration of the source graphic clip. Okay, so we talked about converting to source graphics, right? So then it becomes a project element, right? You could also take that then source graphic, or you don't even have to do it as a source graphic, just make it a motion graphics template. It'll still work either way. I just showed you how to upgrade it to a legacy title, graphic, upgrade legacy title, or upgrade all. But as you're going to see here, make sure you check quality of the upgraded graphics, as not all characteristics of legacy title translate perfectly into source graphics. Rolls, crawls, tracking, and rotation are not translated. There may also be other minor differences, okay? So here's what they are, all right? So attributes that will be converted. So glyphs of text, fill color and visibility, font, size, style, outer strokes, underlines, kerning, baseline shift, small caps, okay? These things are all going to carry over from previous legacy titles. Layer settings, okay? And again, you kind of know this because you just saw all of these things in the Essential Graphics appearance panels. Position alignment, okay? Leading, shadow, linear and radial gradients. This would not have been the case a couple of versions ago. Now we have that. Now it does say layer settings that may look a little different after that upgrade, maybe because we've changed the way that you did those gradients in the previous panel. Probably a little bit different. We've kind of changed how we do that overall. Not overall, but slightly. Vertical text, sheen, same thing. Okay, track items, filters, motion and motion keyframes. So again, the text flies in from the left, flies in from the right, from top, from bottom. That all carries over. That hasn't changed. We're still doing it exactly the same. Opacity keyframes, effects keyframes. None of that has changed. Okay, but here's the stuff that is not going to be converted. So already mentioned. So roles. So if you had a credit roll, which you would enable inside the legacy titler, Essential Graphics, because it's in a completely different place and it works completely differently. The duration is devised completely differently. That doesn't carry over. Crawls don't carry over. Okay. Inner strokes don't. All right. Background, distort, rotation. So again, these were some elements of the legacy titler that are not the same or present in the EGP. Track label colors, tracking. Didn't we say tracking was supported? Tab width stops, fill types other than solid, linear, and radial. Again, you had, obviously, it's been a long time, other fill options in the legacy titler. So overall, not a lot that doesn't carry over. The main one, probably for most, that would affect most people, I imagine, rolls, crawls, inner strokes, maybe some of these other elements here. But in general, you know, most of the stuff does. And again, I mean, I don't know how, you know, I suppose you could have made some pretty complex things in there. Do the upgrade and then try and see. And worst case, you may have to recreate that. But now you know it's super easy to create those things inside Essential Graphics, whether you're working with shapes, whether you're working with just direct text, importing image files, video files, alignment is all there. Positioning, responsive positioning, mask with text, multiple strokes, adding linear and radial gradients, all of your Adobe fonts, along with preview of those fonts. I don't even think the old titler, I don't think it gave you font previews. Did it? Did we add? Oh, we did. We eventually did add those. Again, I haven't been in here in so long. It's been a really long time. All right. Legacy title styles. Always with these. It's always the blue italics with a blue gradient, or this, you know, this. What, how? Reminds me of Video Toaster, which I used in 1991. Not that there's anything wrong with those. I'm pretty sure I had that same text style, though, in 1991. I say this as someone who has no font, text, graphic capability. I'm the worst. I'm the first to say it. I defer to others. But occasionally, you know, I can come up with some reasonably cool things, which are really just standard things. And you can too. And that's going to put us right on time. Peter Tahoe, when is this new version of Premiere going into effect? I don't know when the update is coming. It's coming soon. So, you know, just be aware. If you've got a lot of titles that you want to preserve, you know, sooner than later. I don't have all they need is a bevel, Eugene. Exactly. You're on the right track there. Okay. Oh, like using the rate stretch tool for a clip in the timeline. Can you adjust the speed of a clip added in? Yeah, so it does it. That does it. Rate stretch. I don't think rate stretch affects graphics that way. because again, it's really just sort of like a container for all the elements, all the layered elements in there. So you have video in a graphic, but it doesn't see the graphic itself in the timeline. Is just it's almost like having an image in there, right? The animation part of it has to happen inside the effects controls. All right. So friends, that's all the time we have. Looking here for any additional questions. All right. Thanks for watching. Isn't it easier to just make the MOGRT in AE? Yeah, so now again, just real quick, we have like 10 seconds. It's no easier. The difference is Premiere's MOGRTs have limited effects capabilities. In After Effects, anything that you can do in After Effects can become a motion graphics template. So 3D, particles, whatever it is you're doing, all of that, as in you saw in some of my own, 3D animated Illustrator text, yes, you can make all of that in After Effects. So After Effects just gives you more when making MOGRTs. Premiere is going to allow you to use its sort of native effects, maybe third-party ones, but basic shapes, basic text, basic animation, and that's the deal. My friends, thank you so much. The DCC is coming up next, so we will see you again next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.